The battlefield was silent, except for a small, broken sob. When Captain Ryland turned, he saw her. A tiny alien girl, her silver eyes glistening like shattered stars. The world around them was ruins-ashen skies, buildings split like broken teeth, fires smoldering in craters where homes once stood. The stench of metal and blood hung heavy in the air, and the wind whispered through shattered glass. Ryland moved slowly, boots crunching over rubble, rifle held low. He had walked through death before, but this silence felt heavier, almost sacred-like. A tune that breathed, then he heard it again. A soft sound, fragile, almost lost in the hiss of burning metal. A sob. He followed it to what was once a wall, now collapsed into a pile of jagged stone and steel. Something shifted beneath the wreckage. Flicker of pale light. Ryland knelt, pushing debris aside with careful hands. The ash coated his gloves, gray streaks smearing against black armor. Then he saw her dot small. So small it made his chest tighten. She couldn't have been more than 6, by human standards. Skin like porcelain with a faint lavender hue, hair thin, and silvery as moonlight, tangled and dusty. Her clothes, if they could be called that, were torn strips of fabric, stained with soot and streaks of blood. And in her tiny arms, she clutched something, a piece of broken tech, glowing faintly blue, like a child clinging to a teddy bear after a nightmare. Her eyes met his, wide, frightened, the kind of fear that went beyond words. Ryland froze, his instincts screaming, enemy, but his rifle stayed down. There was no fight in her, only terror. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, she whispered. Her voice was shaky, cracked like fragile glass. Scared. 2 words. Broken. English, yet they cut deeper than any blade. Ryland felt something twist inside him. For months, he'd been told aliens were monsters, killers. They slaughtered his people, burned colonies to ash. He'd seen comrades gutted, families torn apart. And now, here she was tiny, trembling, with tears cutting lines through the grime. On her cheeks. A child. He crouched lower, setting his rifle aside. "Hey," he murmured, his voice softer than he remembered it could be. "It's okay. You're safe." The words felt strange on his tongue. Safe. When nothing was safe anymore, she didn't move, didn't speak. Just gripped that broken device tighter, her knuckles pale. Her small hands trembled, shaking like fragile leaves in a storm. "Come." "On," Ryland said, reaching out slowly. His hand hovered in the air, open, waiting. "I'm not going to hurt you." For a long moment, she didn't trust him. Her silver eyes darted toward the blackened horizon, then back to his face. And then hesitantly, like touching fire, her tiny fingers slid into his gloved hand. The contact hit him like a shot to the chest. Warm, real, and so impossibly fragile. He could hear distant engines now, dropships sweeping the ruins, reinforcements. If they saw her, she was dead. No questions. No mercy. Protocol was clear. Ryland looked down at her again, saw the way she pressed closer, still clutching that glowing shard of tech. "Please," she whispered, the word trembling like her hands. Please. In that moment, everything changed. He scooped her up into his arms, tucking the little alien against his chest as if she were the most precious thing in the galaxy. His rifle hung at his side, forgotten. Screw protocol. He wasn't leaving her here, not now. Not ever. The fire crackled softly, throwing pale orange light against the broken walls of what used to be a home. Captain Ryland sat with his back to the remnants of a shattered pillar, rifle within reach, though his hands were busy tending to the child, wrapped in his thermal cloak. She hadn't spoken again since that single word, please. Now she sat curled against him, her small frame trembling despite the cloak's warmth. The glowing shard she clutched was still in her grasp, faint blue pulses beating like a second heartbeat in the dark. Raylan stared at the thing, wondering what it was. Weapon? Beacon? Or just a fragment of whatever life she'd had before the war shattered it? His instincts told him to take it, to smash it and toss the pieces into the fire. But every time he looked down and saw her tiny arms wrapped around it like it was the only piece of her world left, he couldn't. She shifted slightly, her silvery hair brushing his arm. That hair, it shimmered when the firelight touched it, like strands of spun starlight streaked with ash. For a moment, he forgot the blood, the orders, the endless grind of killing. She was just a child, alone, scared. Here, he muttered, pulling a ration bar from his belt pouch. He peeled it open, holding the square of dense, dry food close to her. Eat something. She turned her head, blinking at him. Her silver eyes reflected the flames, 2 tiny moons in a ruined sky. Slowly, she reached out, fingers trembling, and touched the bar. She sniffed it first, wrinkling her small nose. Then carefully, she took the smallest bite. Rylan smirked. Despite himself. Not poisoned, he said softly, though he doubted she understood. Still, she ate. Tiny nibbles, cautious at first, then a little faster, like hunger was finally clawing past her fear. He watched her, something tightening in his chest with every bite she took. He had no idea why. When she was done, she whispered something. The words were halting, broken like a shattered melody. You? Stay? Rylan blinked. His throat tightened around a reply. 2 simple words, carrying the weight of galaxies. Yeah, he said finally, voice low. I'll stay. She lowered her head then, as if that promise was enough to let her breathe. Her small hands loosened slightly around the shard, but she didn't let it go. Not even in sleep. And as the fire burned lower, Rylan kept watch. The wind outside carried distant echoes, dropship engines, patrols, his own people, searching these ruins for stragglers, prisoners, spoils. If they found her, she was dead. Protocol was clear. He'd broken it the moment he pulled her from the rubble. His earpiece crackled suddenly, a harsh whisper cutting through the night. Captain Rylan, report. Area sweep complete? Rylan stiffened, looking down at the sleeping child in his arms. Her face was soft now, though streaked with ash, her tiny breaths warm against his chest. For a moment, the voice in his ear felt like it came from another life. Rylan? The voice sharpened. He reached up slowly, tapped the com, and lied. Sectors clear, moving to next grid. Copy. Rendezvous in 1 hour. The channel went dead. Rylan sat still for a long time after that, listening to her breathing, to the quiet hum of the shard in her arms. It pulsed again, faint but steady, like a beacon waiting for someone or something. He didn't know what she was, why she mattered, why her words, you stay, felt like they burned deeper than any order ever given to him. But he knew this much. If they came for her, they'd go through him first. And somewhere in the dark, as the fire flickered low, shadow moved in the ruins, watching, waiting. Asterisk, the first light of dawn bled through the shattered skyline, turning the ash into a dull silver sheet. Captain Rylan tightened the straps on his armor, every movement sharp with urgency. His breath fogged in the morning chill, though his body burned with tension. The child, Luma. That's what she had whispered when he gently asked her name before she fell asleep. Just one word, soft and uncertain, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to exist anymore. Luma. Now she was awake, sitting silently by the remains of the fire, her legs tucked under her, arms wrapped around that glowing shard. It pulsed faintly, a heartbeat in glass, blue light shimmering against her tiny fingers. Time to move, Rylan said quietly. She looked up at him, silver eyes wide, almost pleading. He crouched down, voice softer now. "We can't stay here. Bad people are coming." She didn't speak, just nodded once, quick and nervous. Her small hands trembled as she stood, clutching the shard like a lifeline. He scooped her up without asking, feeling how weightless she was in his arms like carrying. Smoke. Her head rested against his shoulder, and for a strange, fleeting moment, it felt natural. Wrong in the middle of war, but natural all the same. Then the sound came. Engines. Low. Distant at first, then growing louder, rolling across the ruins. Like a storm. Dropships. He knew the pitch of those turbines anywhere. They were human ships. His ships. Damn it, Rylan hissed. He sprinted through the rubble, boots striking ash and broken glass. The old streets were jagged, gutted by craters and split pipes that steamed faintly. Every step was a gamble, every shadow a possible. Sniper nest. Hold on, he muttered, shifting Luma against his chest. She clung tighter, her small arms gripping his neck as if she understood the danger chasing them. His cum crackled again. "Captain Rylan, report status. Grid 7 shows movement." Rylan didn't slow. "Just rats," he replied, voice even, though sweat burned down his spine. "Nothing worth reporting." "Copy. Maintain sweep. All assets converging on your location." Assets. That meant hunter teams. He could picture them now, black armor, rifles humming with plasma charges, scanning ruins with cold precision. And if they found her, no hesitation. A child, an alien, didn't matter. They'd burn her where she stood. Asterisk. The alley ahead narrowed, choked with debris. He slid through, breath harsh in his ears, Luma's small body bouncing gently with his steps. She made no sound, no whimper, no cry. Just those trembling hands clutching the shard, as if the universe would vanish if she let go. They broke into a wide courtyard, what was left of one. Statues toppled, trees burned to skeletal fingers, a fountain cracked and dry. Beyond it, the hills rose jagged and black, where the forest might offer cover. Almost there. Almost a sharp whine split the air. A red beam slashed past his shoulder. Sizzling stone. Then came the shout. Contact. Rylan dove behind the fountain as plasma bolts tore chunks from the wall. Dust exploded in clouds. Luma yelped, a tiny sound that ripped at his chest. He shielded her with his body, teeth clenched, then rolled to cover. "Move, move!" Voices barked in the distance. Boots pounding metal. Human voices. His own people. He gritted his teeth and yanked his rifle free. "Stay down," he whispered. To Luma, her silver eyes locked on his face, wide with terror, but she nodded. Brave. Braver than most soldiers he'd known. Rylan leaned out and fired. 2 sharp bursts. One silhouette crumpled, the others scattered. He didn't wait, grabbed Luma, sprinted across the open courtyard, plasma fire chasing their heels. Every muscle screamed, lungs burning, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The trees were close now, black shadows against a pale dawn. "Freedom, Captain Rylan." A voice thundered behind him, carried by a commamp. "Stand down. Return the asset." Asset. He clutched her tighter, fury pounding with every heartbeat. "Not a damn asset," he growled under his breath. "She's a child." A child whose shard now pulsed brighter, blue light spilling between her fingers, flashing faster like a beacon waking up. And far above the clouds, something answered. Asterisk night draped itself across the ruined hills like a shroud. The trees stood, black and twisted against the dim starlight, their skeletal branches scratching at the sky. Rylan crouched beneath one of them, his chest heaving, sweat cooling on his skin as he scanned the darkness for movement. They had been running for hours. His legs burned, His lungs felt raw, but he couldn't stop not until he knew they were beyond the hunter team's reach. The air smelled of scorched metal and smoke, even this far from the city. War left its stench everywhere. Beside him, huddled, under his thermal cloak, was Luma. Her head rested against the base of the tree, silver hair spilling like liquid light over her tiny shoulders. She hadn't made a sound since the firefight. Not one cry. Not one question. But her eyes. Those wide, silver eyes held everything: fear, exhaustion, and something else. Something he couldn't name. Rylan exhaled slowly and set his rifle. Down. The weapon felt heavier than ever. He was a soldier, a killer, trained for compliance. But tonight, that title felt hollow. He had broken every protocol that bound him. For her, a faint glow pulled his gaze down. The shard-dotted pulsed steadily now, brighter than before, bathing Luma's hands in blue light. It wasn't random, it was rhythmic, deliberate, almost like a heartbeat calling out across the void. "Hey," he whispered, moving closer. "Let me see that." Luma clutched it tighter, panic flashing in her eyes. No take. Her voice cracked, thin and trembling, but sharp with desperation. Rylan froze, lifting his hands in surrender. "Easy, kid. I'm not taking it. Just, what is it?" She stared at him, lips pressed tight. For a long, aching moment, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, slowly, her small voice came again, broken words strung together like fragile thread. "They hurt if find." His brows furrowed. "Who hurts? The soldiers?" She shook her head violently. "All gone. If use." The meaning hit him like a bullet to the gut. Whatever that shard was, it wasn't just a toy or some cultural trinket. It was something powerful, something dangerous enough to wipe out whoever they were. "Luma," he said carefully, his voice low, coaxing. "That thing, does it call someone?" She blinked, tears pooling in her eyes. Her tiny shoulders shook as she whispered, "They come. If I scream inside." Rylan felt the ground tilt beneath him. A signal. A failsafe. God help him. She was carrying something that could summon reinforcements, or worse. "Why you?" he asked softly. "Why give this to a kid?" She hesitated, her small hands trembling harder now, the glow painting her face in shades of sorrow. Her voice was barely audible when she said, "Not kid." Rylan's breath caught. His throat felt dry. "What are you then?" Her silver eyes lifted to his, and for the first time, he saw something beyond fear, something old, something vast, hiding in that tiny frame. Seed. The word lingered between them like a ghost. Before he could speak, the distant rumble of engines shattered the silence. Dropships. Closing in. Rylan snatched his rifle, adrenaline crashing through him like a tidal wave. Luma clung to the shard, blue light pulsing faster now, as if answering a call from the stars. And then he realized something else. The glow wasn't just bright anymore. It was spreading threads of light, creeping across her arms, crawling under her skin like veins of fire. "Oh, hell," Rylan muttered, heart pounding. Whatever she was, whoever she was, time had just run out. The night ripped open with a roar of engines. Shadows slashed across the treetops as dropships cut through the clouds, searchlights lancing the darkness like knives. The low thrum shook the ground, sending dust spiraling into the air. Raylan's grip tightened on his rifle. His pulse pounded in his ears like war drums. They had found him. "Luma," he hissed, turning to her. A child, no. The seed sat frozen under the tree, her tiny body bathed in blue light. It streamed from the shard now, spilling over her fingers, crawling up her arms like glowing vines under translucent skin. Her breath came in shallow gasps, each exhale trembling with something more than fear. She was changing. "Hey, look at me." Rylan crouched low, grabbing her shoulders gently but firmly. Her silver eyes met his, wide and wet with terror. He spoke slowly, forcing calm into his voice, even as panic clawed at his throat. "You have to stay quiet." "Do you understand? No matter what happens, quiet." She nodded, though tears streaked her cheeks. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "I don't want hurt." His chest tightened. "You won't, not if I can stop it." The first blast ripped the night apart, a plasma strike that exploded against the hillside, showering them with shards of molten rock. Heat slammed into Ryland's back. He threw himself over Luma, shielding her from the debris, teeth gritted. As sparks burned through his armor, "Captain Ryland," a voice boomed through a loudspeaker, metallic and cold. "Surrender the asset or be terminated." Asset. Always that damn word. Like she wasn't alive. Like she wasn't clutching his sleeve right now, shaking like a leaf in a storm. He raised his head, scanning the tree line. 3 dropships, black and angular, engines glowing like molten suns. Troops spilled out, armor gleaming under the searchlights, rifles crackling with blue fire. A fanned-out, fast-efficient, lethal dot. He had seconds. Maybe less. "Stay down," Ryland growled, pulling Luma tight against his chest. He dove behind a boulder, just as the first volley of plasma fire ripped through the trees, carving smoking scars into the earth. Sparks hissed. Bark exploded. Ryland returned fire. 2 shots, 3. A soldier crumpled. Another went down screaming. The forest erupted in chaos gunfire, flashing like lightning, shadows jerking and twisting under the assault. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and he didn't care. "Come on," he snarled under his breath, teeth bared as he blasted another trooper. His rifle overheated, warning lights flaring red. He tossed it aside and drew his sidearm, firing until his knuckles burned. Through it all, he kept his body angled over Luma, every move a shield. Plasma sizzled past, so close he smelled the scorched metal of his armor. A shot grazed his arm white-hot, agony ripping through muscle, but he didn't slow Dot, because behind him, the child was glowing brighter. The shard pulsed like a living heart, each beat faster, harder, sending light racing across her skin until she looked like a figure carved from starlight. Then the ground shook. Ryland froze, panting, smoke curling from his gun barrel. The soldiers hesitated too, forming a wide circle around the boulder, rifles raised. And Luma rose. She wasn't standing so much as floating, her tiny feet lifting from the dirt, hair streaming like silver fire. The shard in her hands shattered into fragments of blue light that spiraled around her, embedding into her skin like shards of a dying sun. Her voice broke the silence, soft but echoing, as if the trees themselves carried her words. "I don't want to hurt." Ryland stared, heart slamming against his ribs. She looked fragile still, her small frame, her trembling hands, but the power rolling off her was a storm. Leaves tore from branches. The soldiers stumbled, shields flickering, as blue light poured from her like a tide, asterisk. And then the sky opened. Clouds ripped apart as a beam of light stabbed down from the stars, a lance of brilliance that painted the forest in ghostly hues. Shapes loomed within it, distant but vast, silhouettes of ships the size of cities sliding. Through the void, Ryland understood then. The signal, the shard, the word she whispered. See, Dot, they weren't coming for him. They were coming for her Dot, and if they arrived, this world wouldn't survive the hour. "Luma," he rasped, forcing his voice through the storm. He staggered forward, gripping her glowing shoulders, feeling heat sear his palms through the gloves. "Look at me. You're in control, not them." You. Her eyes turned to him, silver drowning in light, and for a heartbeat he saw the child again. The one who clung to his neck and whispered please. The roar of engines split the night, dropships lifting, soldiers retreating in panic, because they knew what he knew now. The seed was waking Dot, and if he didn't stop this, everyone human, alien. Everything was dead. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her trembling form, voice breaking against her ear. You're not a weapon. You're not. For a breath, the light faltered. For a breath, hope sparked Dot, then the stars began to fall. Asterisk. The night burned with a light no human eye was meant to see. Blue fire rippled across the sky, tearing through. Clouds like molten silk as the colossal shapes of alien ships slid into orbit, blotting out the stars. Their hulls glimmered like living metal, pulsing with the same eerie glow that now blazed from Luma's fragile frame. Raylan held her tight, his arms locking around her small body, even as the heat pouring from her scorched his skin through layers of armor. The ground cracked beneath them, fissures spider webbing outward, as if the earth itself recoiled from what she was becoming. Luma! His voice was raw, shredded by smoke and panic. Listen to me. You have to stop this. Her silver eyes, once soft, once filled with fear, now burned like twin novas. Light spiraled out of her in ribbons, curling skyward, feeding the beam. That tethered her to the orbiting fleet. Her hair streamed like a river of starlight, whipping around her face as if caught in an invisible storm. They, hear me. Her voice came fractured, echoing like 100 whispers layered into one. Her tiny hands gripped his shoulders with a strength that wasn't hers alone. I wake them, then unwake them. He roared, shaking her gently, desperate. You said you didn't want to hurt anyone. This will burn the world down, Luma. It'll kill everyone. For the briefest heartbeat, her gaze flickered childlike terror, breaking through the flood of alien power. Tears welled, glowing like molten silver, sliding down her cheeks in rivers of light. I can't stop. They made me. Those words hit harder than any bullet. Not a choice, not a calling, a curse. They had built her for this, designed her to be the key, the signal, the living fuse that would ignite annihilation. Dot above them. The ships shifted, their colossal silhouettes rearranging into patterns no human fleet could match. Energy hummed in the air, vibrating through the bones, warping the night into a cage of light. The invasion wasn't coming. It was here. Raylan clenched his jaw so hard it hurt. His earpiece crackled human command, screaming orders drowned in static. Words like extraction, fire mission, neutralize asset. They'd rain hell from orbit before they let this power fall into enemy hands. And caught between two fires was a trembling child who never asked for any of this. Luma, he whispered now, voice breaking as he pressed his forehead to hers. Her skin was fever-hot, searing, but he didn't care. You're not what they made you. You're more. You here. Me? You're more. She sobbed, a tiny sound that shattered him, and for a breath the storm faltered, the light dimming, the earth holding still. I don't want to hurt. Then don't. His arms tightened, pulling her small frame against his chest, shielding her from everything soldiers, ships, destiny itself. We'll run. We'll hide. We'll fight the whole galaxy if we have to. But you don't have to be their weapon. Ever. The beam above flickered, threads of blue unspooling like torn fabric. The ships hesitated, engines rumbling low as if uncertain. Hope sparked small, fragile, but real. And then the sky screamed. A human orbital strike lanced downward, a spear of fire that turned night into white daylight, vaporizing half the forest in a roaring shockwave. Rylan hit the ground, curling around Luma, as the blast tore trees from roots, flung stone like shrapnel, and carved a smoking scar into the earth. Heat seared his back, ripping a cry from his throat. When the roar faded, only silence remained thick, crushing silence broken by the crackle of distant flames. The beam was gone. The sky was empty, the alien fleet retreating like ghosts into the void, and in his arms was Luma, small again, fragile. Her glow faded to faint threads along her skin. Her eyelids fluttered, silver eyes dull with exhaustion. "You stayed," she whispered, voice barely a breath. Raylan swallowed the lump in his throat, pulling her close, his armor scorched and cracked, his body screaming in pain. "Yeah," he rasped, tears stinging his eyes. "I told you I would." She smiled then, tiny, broken, but real before slipping into unconsciousness against his chest. Above the burning forest, the sky stretched black and endless, hiding. Truth only Rylan knew now. The war wasn't over. Because the galaxy's most powerful weapon was a child sleeping in his arms, and he'd kill anyone who tried to take her. **, the end.